Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert workshop. My name is David and I'm part of the My World Work Live team here at Skills Development Scotland. My World Work Live is about helping you understand future careers and what they might need. So in today's session, we're going to cover a quick overview of the circular economy. We're going to look at some opportunities within the sector. Then I'm going to introduce you to Stephen Kiakowski of the Verdancy group, and we're going to allow you to ask any questions that you may have. I'd like to encourage as many of you to get involved as possible, so please use the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen to ask us questions as we go through, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. I would just like to let you know that today's session is being recorded so that young people who could not make it today can still access the resources, and it will be available for everybody to watch on the My World of Work Live YouTube, My World of Work YouTube channel. That means you can rewatch everything that's been talked about today as many times as you like. Also, please don't worry, everything you ask today can be anonymous if you prefer, and you can select that option in the question and answer box. Next week is Scottish Apprenticeship Week, and that's an opportunity to celebrate apprenticeships in Scotland and share the value they have for individuals, employers and the economy. You can have a look at the activity from people, businesses across Scotland who will be sharing photos, films and stories using Scott App Week 22 hashtag. So let's quickly have a look at some of the information about the circular economy before we pass across to Stephen. So currently almost 1 in 10 jobs are related to the circular economy. That's 8.1% of Scottish jobs. That works out as about 427,000 jobs related to circular economy. These jobs would be varied depending on the sector of the circular economy, and all jobs going forward actually have a role to play in circular economy. So what we'll do is we'll move on and introduce our expert, Stephen. So Stephen has a passion for achieving a circular economy. He wants to educate the workforce to protect the planet through carbon neutral practices. He's passionate about the environmental education at home, in the community and within industry, and likes relating environmental education to future careers and a home life. But rather than me talk about Stephen, what I'm going to do is we're going to pass across and hear from the man himself. So Stephen, if you could just tell us a wee bit about what you do and your experience and your career journey to start us off.
Thanks, David, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the young people that are on the call today. So, as David says, I currently work and own an organisation called the Verdancy Group, and we are all about working with young people to understand really what circular economy, sustainability, net zero means not only to you in your everyday lives, but from a career perspective. And we work with lots of different organisations in the private sector, so businesses and companies that will be looking to employ young people such as yourselves, but also within education, so in primary schools, secondary schools and colleges, and really trying to simplify the terms that we've talked about, circular economy, sustainability, and make you think that actually I am passionate about the environment. I'm possibly not sure what career path I want to move forward with, and try and reinforce that if you can learn skills and importantly attitudes around trying to protect the environment and build a circular economy, then it's going to stand you in very good stead both now but also in the future in terms of the job that you may choose or you may end up taking forward. So that's a bit about myself, David.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll move on to some questions and see what we can get. So I think the first question that has to come out is going to be, most students will know about green economies and things like that, and it's very prevalent in school these days. Could you tell us just simply what the circular economy is?
Yeah, the circular economy is probably many things to many people, but I like to think of actual practical examples for young people. So I'll take one of the most obvious sectors where circular economy is very prominent just now, and that's in the construction sector. So any young people who are thinking about going into a job, whether it be a skill tradesman, such as a bricklayer, possibly looking at engineering or drawing career, circular economy in that instance means that when we're designing buildings or when we're looking at how do we build a house or what do we make a house out of, when that house or when that item is no longer fit for purpose, so perhaps needs to be taken down or changed over, it can move and either be recycled or importantly can be reused for something else. So a lot of things that you'll see just now, such as roads, bridges, other things such as cars, will all have what they'll call an end of life option. And that really means that when that item has come to its end of its life, so it's now no longer viable for lots of different reasons, it can then be used in a different way. And there's lots of practical examples. Looking at a laptop just now, and the young people who are on the call, once this laptop is either not working or has an issue, it has been designed so that parts can either be reused in other laptops, or actually it can be recycled back to its original form at a very, very high level. So simply, circular economy means designing things at the outset so that when they are no longer needed, they can be reused for something else. And I wouldn't make it any more complicated than that.
Fantastic. That's an excellent way to explain it, and hopefully that means all the electronics I end up wearing me can be reused as well. So that's brilliant. So what our next question is going to be is, so for circular economy, do I need any specific skills or qualifications, or is there any sort of subjects that would help me if I wanted to work in a job that is more circular economy focused?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question around what skills the young people need. And I say young people, it's everyone that needs these skills. It's thinking about what qualifications and what personal skills that I need. I work with a lot of employers across various different sectors who look at things such as foundation apprenticeships or modern apprenticeships. And what I would say is that their focus is on the people skills very much. So if you're someone who is curious, if you're someone who's very good at problem solving, if you can think about things and perhaps think about them slightly differently, these skills are really prominent. Within the STEM sector, so science, technology, English and maths, these are the areas such as engineering and electronics and manufacturing, and traditionally they'll stick to their existing career paths and educational pathways, perhaps college, university. But the great thing is that the green economy or the green recovery, when it's put in the context of the implications of COVID, is really there for everyone. There's jobs at various different levels, there's jobs in various different sectors. I work with students who work within hospitality. I work with students who are looking at sustainable fashion. So there really is a diverse range of opportunity for young people. And in one sentence is, think about the skills that make you the person that you are, and those are the ones that I think will see success in the green jobs, both now and in the future.
Excellent, excellent. So you've said quite a lot about jobs that are in the circular economy, but what sort of job can be part of the circular economy? Yeah,
part of my job is trying to change people's perceptions and idea of a job in circular economy. Because a lot of the times when we speak to young people and you ask them, well, what does a job in the circular economy look like, or what does a job within the waste management industry look like, they're often drawn to working in the binman type traditional stereotypical role. But actually what I tend to do, and something I'd probably share with teachers and practitioners, is I would share that, have a look at some of the recruitment websites, see the number of jobs with the title sustainability, circular economy, environmental profile as part of career paths. And the great thing is that SDS and Scottish Government are really pushing forward as quickly as they can to create quite clear pathways for young people. So yeah, any job that you're thinking of just now, and that's a bold statement, but I would stand by it quite strongly. Any job that a young person is thinking about will have an opportunity to have a green or a circular economy aspect to it. And what I'll reinforce to an earlier answer is that if you can differentiate yourself as someone who has a clear understanding of terms such as circular economy and sustainability, that will do you absolutely fantastically well in part of recruitment, interviews and other areas, because these are key skills and key attitudes, as I talked about, that employers are looking for.
Excellent, excellent. So we're moving to a wee question that's a bit more about you. So where did your passion for circular economy come from?
So actually, leading on from the last question, I started completely different when I left school. I started working in finance. So typical career path for me back 15 years ago. Left school in 6th year and worked for a finance organisation and did that for a number of years. But my personal interest in the environment and some opportunities that came my way meant that I left and joined a waste management company. And that was a very good unofficial apprenticeship of understanding what impact waste, what impact circular economy would have. And I'm a traditional SME, so we've got 8 staff within the Verdancy group. And what I wanted to do was I chose that education was something I really enjoyed. I didn't have a lot of experience from a teaching background, but I did have lots of experience and expertise in the subject matter of waste management and the circular economy. So that's where I took probably a non-traditional path to creating the Verdancy group, and now getting to work with lots of young people and various different people in their career paths, with that aim of raising awareness of the opportunity that the green recovery does bring for everyone.
Excellent, excellent. So the next question I've got here is why is the circular economy important, and what part do the jobs does it play in the jobs that are?
One of the critical things that the circular economy brings is that at this moment in time the population of the earth is running through resources and at 3.5 times what we actually can. Now in the UK, particularly in Scotland, we probably don't see the full burden of that just yet, but you only have to look at the Pacific Ocean, where there's a garbage patch, or a trash patch as they call it, that's 3.5 times the size of France as well. You look at some of the areas where the just transition, which is looking at how climate change and circular economy impacts people, and actually in other parts of the world, non-circular practices has real problems and causes real concern for young people. So I think that's really important. We shouldn't shy away from that. But importantly, circular economy is one tool that we can use to try and stop this huge demand on the resources. And there's lots of resources and lots of conversations to be had about that. But in simply, a circular economy is one thing we can try and implement and abide by that will help reduce the demand on the planet, and then in turn the impact on the people.
Excellent. So based on what we just talked about, so obviously COP26 happened last year in Glasgow. So how has that impacted on moving to a circular economy?
The COP26 are fantastic because those are specific events that bring the people who can make change, and a lot of this has to be driven by compliance, has to be driven by rules, and that then allows people like ourselves to make changes, and we can make things different at that very entry level. But what COP26 did, was it brought the attention to Scotland. And it brought the attention to Scotland in a number of very, very good ways. And what I always say as well is that in some of the ways that we want to improve and we want to move forward from, it gives that focus and determination to tackle such aspects. Recycling rates, separation of waste. But what I would always say that everyone should look inwards. So what can I do? Use COP26 as a booster and a platform to think, yep, we can move forward from this. And what they're saying, and whether it be banning coal mines or some of the more technical aspects of what COP26 did bring. It's really important that we think, right, what can I do? And actually ask the question is, do I know what I can do? And if I don't know, what am I doing to try and find out?
Excellent, excellent. Just on that same vein, obviously, COP26 was quite a big event and there was a lot of world leaders here, but there was a lot of businesses involved in it as well. Just for the purposes of students who may not be as aware, do you know what sort of things do businesses contribute to COP?
Yeah, so businesses can contribute to COP and to circular economy and sustainability in many ways. A big focus so far, I would say, has been in technological advances. So again, without going into too many details and boring too many people at this time of the morning, but there's lots of different ways that we'll achieve net zero. And what net zero means is that we are not putting more carbon footprint into the planet than we're taking out. And that is a net zero example. We'll never be able to, certainly not with the technology that we have, to ever achieve a true net zero, which means that we don't capture any carbon. But yeah, technological advances that business and industry are leading on are so important because there's such challenges to the population of the world in various different parts that we won't be able to do it on our own. We will have to work hand in hand with science, and that's why STEM agenda and STEM subjects are so important. But everyone has to work together to achieve it. On the other hand, COP26 was a really good chance for compliance to drive business and change. One of the great aspects from COP26 that was committed to by both the UK and the Scottish Government is that businesses had to have, or have to have now, their sustainability or net zero plan fixed and in place. Now, some organisations are doing fantastically well and others are yet to begin the journey. But that ties back to the fact that for a number of young people entering the workforce, both now and in the short term, these skills and these attitudes to the green agenda and circular economy are going to be so important, no matter what area that you have an interest in working in.
Fantastic. So my next question I've got here is, how does the Verdancy Group help to work towards the green agenda and a circular economy?
So what I see in my job is that, to give a bit of background, when I often speak to young people and I talk to them about words such as climate change, carbon footprint, even the green economy, they have a negative context or connotation of what that means. The first response that we get is polar bears, melting ice caps, the Amazon being destroyed, and that absolutely is so important to understand, because you won't get to where you want to be unless you understand what you're doing just now. But my job and the team at Verdancy Group is to try and change that, is that we want to try and engage young people to think, right, okay, we have a problem in the planet just now, in the world, both locally and globally, but this is going to create opportunity. And that opportunity I want to be at the forefront of, because unlike any type of change before, the skills that are needed are not out there just now. There's never been a revolution as such, where skills for young people and attitudes will be required. So it's really important that we consider that as part of what we offer. So yeah, it's about changing that context from that negative world's on fire context to green and positive, and let's make change now. That's probably the easiest way to say what we do at Verdancy Group. Excellent,
excellent. So obviously, with the role you're in, it's very different to what people might expect. But what does your general day look like when you're doing what you do in the Verdancy Group?
What I do is work with a team of very experienced individuals. So we have people from a technological background, so people like myself from waste management. We have a number of people from education. So they've been teachers, they've been lecturers, they've been principals, various different areas. And we work together on a project-based type approach. So I will own a number of projects, they will own other projects, and that can involve speaking to Scottish Government, that can involve speaking to local communities, it can heavily involve working with private sector organisations, and it's a really good split for me. It's not the same job every day, it's very different, and actually that is a trait and a tradition that I can see in most jobs that work within the circular economy. There is just so much to be done that actually it's very exciting, very engaging, and at the same time can be quite challenging. So for myself and the things that I like, it suits me very well.
Excellent. You may actually have answered this question already, but so with regards to what the Verdancy Group's aims are around things like, you know, the green agenda and circular economy, what would you say are the most challenging aspects of it, and what would you say are the most satisfying things?
The most challenging things, David, I think are time. So the demand on young people, the demand on the private sector, the demand on education is very now and in your face today. And through all fantastic efforts of all the different organisations and various different individuals, it's difficult to make these changes because they're so significant in such a short space of time. So it's really good to be part of a team that are leading the way, both from an educational awards and resources perspective, but we have a very strong network, both from education, the private sector skills councils, awarding bodies, and it's great to see the movement now and the traction. I've been in this industry for 12 years, roughly, give or take. And I have never seen as much movement as quickly as I have in the last 18 months. And one of the things that I'd like to be able to say that I assisted in, if I look forward 15 years or whatever time, is at this moment in time, I believe that if a young person wants to be a chef, or a young person wants to work as a solicitor, or work in finance, there's quite a clear and defined pathway for that young person from a very early age. What I'd like the Verdancy Group legacy to be, certainly a supporting and a collaborative partner, is that circular economy and green skills are as clear to that young person as those other job types that I've just mentioned. And that's not an insignificant task. It is very big, but it's something that I'm really passionate about supporting at all levels to try and achieve that.
Fantastic. So I've got a question here, which is there anything our schools can be doing to help the circular economy, or I guess is there anything that young people can do to raise their awareness and help with regards to this?
Yeah, and again, I speak quite personally, as you've probably seen in the call this morning, that for me, at a personal level, that Learning for Sustainability programme that's been developed by Education Scotland and a number of partners is a fantastic resource, both for students, teachers, practitioners, but also parents, because the work that I do is really important that we can engage and help understand the opportunity. Circular economy is not just a subject that sits out here and you pick it up for 2 hours and then you put it back down again. The principles and attitudes that we all have to have, both now in the future and even beyond, is really important. So it's to how can we embed these principles, the global goals, and various different climate justice profiles, because those are the aspects that will help change people's perceptions and change people's behaviours. I think we've moved on, or certainly we're trying to move on from, we're going to learn about a key aspect of climate change or circular economy, and that's going to be seen as a subject. This has to be something that's embedded across curriculum, so that young people are getting a chance to see just how important it is across their daily lives. And the only way that we will have that impact and allow them the opportunity to learn and ask questions is really by taking it to that embedded and devolved level.
Excellent, excellent. So I've got a question here, which is, and it kind of relates to, I think, what you were just talking about. but it says, can apprenticeships have circular economy themes in them?
Yeah. So the good thing about apprenticeships is it brings education and private sector together quite well. And what's really kind of fresh and quite positive is that we are looking, not just the Verdancy group, but the whole organisations across Scotland, at what does a green apprenticeship look like. They're certainly looking at the frameworks to look at, right, okay, if you are an apprentice, what are the skills that you need to understand? What has moved on from what we've got just now, and the Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan, which was published by Skills Development Scotland, is very good at providing the detail and the timescale. But again, looking at it from a development perspective, the time aspect plays a part. That there is so much work to be done, that some of the things that we'd like to happen tomorrow unfortunately can't. But no, absolutely, that circular economy principles should be first and foremost as important as other areas of apprenticeships, because these are the skills that these young people will need, and whether it is trade-based skills, so hands-on skills that they have to understand, or whether it's what I would call people-based skills, and it's the attitude that, no, actually I am engaged by circular economy. I do understand how important the circular economy is. And for those that might watch this and think, well, I'm still not convinced, please forget for a second the environmental aspect of this. Think of this as a route to getting a job, because either way, I don't mind how you get there. It's just important that you do. And it's important that you're honest about that as well, because there's lots of people that will help and try and explain it in a way that makes sense to you, and makes you think, right, okay, this is something that I should take and move forward with.
Fantastic. So I've now got the COVID question. Yeah. So how did COVID affect you, and did it have an effect on the circular economy?
Yeah, so COVID in theory, talking about myself first and then going on to the kind of wider aspect of circular economy, COVID changed a lot of the ways that our customers and clients worked. A lot of education organisations and institutions had to look at how do we still engage with young people. It was a real push for high quality e-learning resources. I think we were great because the young people had a really good understanding of the tech. But if we were presenting them material online that wasn't engaging and was very monotonous and very the same, it was very easy to become disengaged. And one of the aspects of the circular economy that we haven't really touched on, or I haven't touched on, which has been brought home from a COVID perspective, is circular economy very much is about trying to create jobs and opportunity in Scotland and in the UK. COVID restrictions had a knock-on effect for things such as fruit, vegetables, other areas, clothing, equipment, because we have that model of things being produced in far distant countries and then being transported in container ships to the UK. So COVID actually gave the opportunity for a number of social enterprises or community-based businesses to start, and it's been fantastic to see the success of that, and it's also been fantastic to see the support that young people give to these organisations. Young people are ready for change, and they want to see it. It's just about how do we do that correctly. And the next exciting thing is that I believe that there's a generation of young people just now who are about to enter or have very, very recently entered the workforce that are going to drive transformational change within business. And that's purely because they have the attitudes and behaviours that need to have to make the difference. So it's a very exciting place to be.
Excellent. So I've got a wee question here, which is how can I reduce my impact as a young person in school?
So I think, first of all, it's about understanding your impact, David. So one of the things I always ask young people when I'm speaking with them or meeting with them is that, have you ever completed a carbon footprint report? Surprisingly, more people are saying yes than they did last year, but still not enough. So it's about being honest, completing a carbon footprint report, and that'll tell you exactly what you can do. Lots of people's behaviours are already contributing to that. So I hear a lot from young people who are having a non-meat day, having various different ways to reduce their carbon footprint. And some of the technology that we have just now around volunteering, which is helping reduce carbon footprint by buying trees, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But first thing I would say is, on your smartphone or your device, Google carbon footprint and calculate your carbon footprint, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do to reduce it.
Excellent. So one of the other questions is related to that, and it's and I guess the carbon footprint could be a way of doing this as well, but how can I encourage others to recycle?
For me, and I've got 2 young children at home, Harris and Hope, 2 twins at 2.5, and I try and lead by example. So I let them see me washing out cans. I make sure that they know that there's a recycling bin and there's a waste bin, and more now they're starting to learn the behaviours that they can do it themselves. They quite clearly see that there's a food waste bin in the kitchen, and we try and work them as much as we can, even at a very young age. And one of the other business owners, Colin, his son Charlie is a little bit older. Charlie's now 9. But he's had exactly the same upbringing, and it's really important that we start to do that. And if you are someone who is heavily involved in the environment or sustainability, and it could be anything from donating clothes or items, lots of different things you can do. Don't be scared to make that a big thing as part of your social media profiles and various different things, because in the open world that we have today, employers are looking at lots of different areas to see how a young person behaves and what their attitudes are. And I tie back to that, anyone that's showing really good commitment to these types of principles, it is certainly going to do themselves no harm at all.
Excellent. So I've got a question here, which is, will new jobs develop in circular economy that don't currently exist?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There'll be new jobs in every sector that don't absolutely exist just now. I was speaking to a group of young law students from a college not too far away just a few weeks ago, and they were being tasked at looking at environmental law and legislation. But on the other hand, you're also looking at, as we build a circular economy, what other types of jobs will become available. Transport plays a huge part in the circular economy, moving items from point A to point B. The young people may or may not know that the Scottish Government has committed to introducing the deposit return scheme. So for some of the older people on the call, we'll remember taking the glass bottle back to the shop and getting 20 pence. We're going back there. So there'll be lots of infrastructure jobs that is created from deposit return scheme. And the traditional sectors that young people work in within Scotland all have a place for circular economy at all different levels, whether it be an entry-level position where you're going to be very much hands-on, or whether it be a future career path where you're actually making decisions within that organisation around circular economy principles.
So I've got a question which is about food waste recycling.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 people. One person recycles food waste, the other one hates it because it spills up their kitchen. What is the advantage? Is food waste recycling as important as other kinds of recycling? Yeah,
so food waste recycling and quote unquote is probably one of the best ways of recycling that we have directly on our doorstep in Scotland. And the reason for that is that if we don't recycle food waste and it ends up in the landfill bin, for its proper name, it creates a significant amount of methane gas in landfills. And that methane gas is really, really bad for the environment. Also, food waste, and in terms of what we're achieving, is that I have a personal crusade around food waste, in that we all need to look at how do we reduce food waste as much as we possibly can. So never mind recycling it, which, yeah, it absolutely has a process in Scotland and we can recycle food waste. We can create energy, so biofuel. But I'd say that if I had to choose, is it more important to not put it in landfill and create methane, or capture it and create biofuel? I would absolutely say do not put it in landfill because of the environmental impact. But I would also think that there's always people within our networks, whether it be friends, family, or at school, who are less fortunate than ourselves, and leaving food waste for people who are unfortunately at this point having to possibly use food banks in other areas is a very emotional aspect for the consideration. So there's hopefully 3 ways why we should be looking at food waste.
Fantastic.
Hopefully that's okay.
No, that's brilliant. That's really good. It's good to know. So that's us. We're almost at the end, so I've just got time for one last question.
Yep.
And it is, what made you choose to go down this job path? What inspired you or motivated you to make the change?
So 2 things really. Working with young people was something I really enjoyed, and learning from young people at the same time. So at the moment we have a number of apprenticeship opportunities within the business, and the reason I want those young people in is to lead what we're doing, because their opinion and what they think is so relevant. Even though I'm only 35 and see myself as a young businessman, even my face doesn't fit anymore. So it's important to have these young people advising and really making us understand what do we need to do, because it's not going to be very long before they're making the decisions anyway. And the most important thing is that I've got some really good examples of young people that I've met in the last few years, who perhaps thought they were on a career path. We've then worked with them in some way, whether it be an award or whether it just be a speech or a talk like this, and that's then changed their thinking of what their career should look like. An exact example I'm thinking about, I met a young person who was in an oil and gas modern apprenticeship, had been looking at a number of our courses and as much of other things, and decided to change his modern apprenticeship and is now working in the renewable energy sector. So I like to keep things really simple, and for me that's something that I'm really proud of that the team have achieved. And the great thing is that as we grow, more examples and more opportunities for that to happen come of age.
Fantastic. So thanks very much, Stephen. That's been some very good and very insightful answers. So I think we are going to need to move. So so you can find out more about careers at myworldofwork.co.uk. You'll find lots of information there to help you make career choices, and if you need some further inspiration on what to do, there are tools there that will help you explore your understanding of your strengths, and lots of job profiles for you to explore. If you're interested in what Stephen's talked about today, you can also have a look at the verdancygroup.com, which is the Verdancy Group's website. So other places you can go for information is Net Zero Scotland, netzeronation.scot for more information. And if you want to learn more about apprenticeships in Scotland, you can check out apprenticeships.scot for information and on digital careers. Finally, if you want to watch this again or any of our Meet the Expert sessions, you can view them all on the My World of Work YouTube channel. And finally, you can find more information on the Green Jobs Academy at the website listed below. So finally, I would just like to say, as has come to the end of the session, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Stephen for taking the time to join us today and provide an insight into the circular economy and specifically the role that they're playing in it. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day.